Welcome to today's segment, Ask an Attorney, brought to you by Peter Morgan with Morgan Law. Today we're going to be talking about title searches. A very important part of my job in helping people with real estate transactions is to order and review title searches. And I often get asked what's involved in a title search and why is it so important. Well, one practical consideration is you need to get title insurance in most, really basically all situations where you're going to be purchasing real estate. And in order to get title insurance, you are going to have a title search. So what does a title search consist of? A title search is actually sort of a broad name for a lot of different types of searches that are going on at the same time. An attorney often conducts a title search, or in some cases it may be a paralegal or somebody else that is very experienced in reviewing property matters, but you definitely want to make sure it's somebody who knows what they're doing, who's a lot of experience with it. So when we're conducting a title search, we're looking first of all at who actually owns the property, because obviously in a purchase situation, or really even in a refinance situation, it's important for the title insurance company's benefit and anybody else's to confirm who actually owns the property. That's important. And so we are checking with the Register of Deeds to make sure that we feel like the party that's supposed to own the property actually does. That's maybe the most important part of it. Also related to a title search will be questions about what other liens or other encumbrances might be upon the property. That sounds sort of fancy, so let's break that down a little bit more. When we're talking about a lien, that simply means something which has been recorded with the Register of Deeds typically that will actually impact on ownership. It actually is security for some type of monetary obligation, most typically. So examples of liens might be a tax lien, an IRS lien, something where somebody's failed to pay their taxes and as a result the government entity that's owed the money has put a lien on the property. That's an example. There are judgment liens, which is the result of somebody in a civil court obtaining a judgment against the person that owns the property. That amount, is secured by that lien. The most common, though, would actually be a form of mortgage, or what we call a deed of trust in North Carolina. That is another type of lien. And that is actually, of course, to secure that collateral for that mortgage lender. So as long as the owner still has to pay that mortgage off, that mortgage lien is going to remain in place. While we're on the subject of liens, I can also mention a couple other that would be less common but still important to note. One of those is mechanics liens, which are actually liens filed by people who have furnished labor or materials, supplies to the property, usually as part of some renovation or maybe even when the house was built. So those definitely need to be noted and addressed. Even less common probably than mechanics liens would be what we call municipal liens. Usually here in Mecklenburg County, that's going to be the city of Charlotte. That would normally be a situation where the property owner has failed to take care of the property and the city actually had to come in and mow their grass, for example. Believe it or not, the city has the statutory right to lien an owner's property if they take such bad care of it that the city has to step in. Interesting thing about those is, and this gets actually asked a fair amount, those types of liens actually apply to any property that owner owns within the municipality. So if you have a bank, for example, that owns 500 properties in Charlotte that are bank owned, if any one of those needs to have their grass cut, that can impact on all of them. So those can be a little tricky to deal with at times, but something definitely needs to come up in the context of a title search. So in addition to ownership and liens, we are making sure taxes have been paid regardless of whether there's a lien or not. That's often a question that comes up. And then also usually trying to verify, is this going to be a property in which there may be restrictions, and that would be, for example, a condominium would want to note restrictions, and then also are there any type of homeowners association dues, are there homeowners association restrictions because it might be, for example, a newer community that's a planned unit development. The title search, the purpose of that is not really to go into a lot of detail about what those restrictions are, and so I always caution people, if you have particular questions about that, let your attorney know, because that is not actually something we're going to be looking at in any great detail as part of a normal closing. But we do need to report them. We do need to let the title insurance company know those are out there, because actually HOA dues can give rise to a lien in themselves, and unfortunately in certain limited circumstances an HOA could even foreclose on a lien and take ownership of the property, which is why we have to pay such careful attention to it. So just to kind of summarize what we've been talking about today on today's topic of title searches. Title searches are really a collection of different types of searches of different property records, tax records, etc. They're necessary for title insurance, but they're also just a really good idea, and they include verifying ownership, determining whether there are unpaid taxes or other sources of liens on the property, what those liens are, how much they are. And then a third important part would be, are there any restrictions or a homeowners association that would impact on the property? Because again, HOA dues could actually be in themselves a source of a lien that could result in some title problems down the road. So that concludes today's discussion about title searches. I hope you found this talk informative and entertaining. And for more information, I'd certainly love for you to consult my website listed below, or you can check out the contact information at the conclusion of this video.